right, everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep today into something that's been causing a lot of head scratching in the Richard Allen case.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you see the headline and you think, huh, that doesn't quite add up.
Exactly. We're talking about Allen being moved to a state facility before his trial even started, particularly with all the talk about those photos the defense released.
Right. You'd think those two things would be directly connected, but, well, that's where Indiana law gets a little interesting.
So walk us through this. What's the missing piece of the puzzle here?
Okay, so Indiana has this thing called safekeeping orders. Now, you hear safekeeping, you probably think, okay, keeping the defendants safe. Right.
Yeah, makes sense, especially in a high-profile case like this.
Absolutely. But it goes beyond just protecting the defendant. It's about protecting the entire legal process.
How interesting. So how does that work? What else falls under safekeeping?
Well, think about it. What do you need for a fair trial?
Let's see. A secure facility, an unbiased jury, a calm environment where everyone can focus on the facts.
Exactly. Safekeeping orders consider all of that. The security of the facility itself, making sure the jury isn't unduly influenced or threatened, preventing disruptions that could derail the trial. It's about creating a neutral space where justice can actually be served.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So how does this apply to Richard Allen's case specifically?
Well, the thing is, Allen was transferred under a safekeeping order weeks before the defense made that move with the photos.
Oh, wow. So those two things are totally unrelated then.
Right. The decision to move him was made way earlier based on concerns about the Carroll County Jail's ability to handle a case of this magnitude.
I can imagine. We're talking about the Delphi murders here, a case that's been in the national spotlight for years.
Exactly. The potential for threats, the media frenzy, even just the physical limitations of the jail itself, it all played a role.
I guess it's kind of like, trying to host a huge concert in a tiny coffee shop. Just not the right fit.
Perfect analogy. And look, these safekeeping laws aren't about assuming guilt or innocence. They're about making sure the wheels of justice can turn properly regardless of the outcome.
That's a really important point.
Yeah, and to really drive that home, they didn't just move him to another county jail. They transferred his custody to the Indiana Department of Correction.
Whoa, okay, that definitely sends a message about how seriously they were taking this.
Absolutely. So to wrap this up, Richard Allen's transfer wasn't some kind of punishment or reaction to those photos. It was a decision made well in advance based on existing legal procedures and very real concerns about security and fairness.
So bottom line, Judge Gull was making sure that everyone involved, Allen, the victims' families, the jury had the best possible chance at a fair and just outcome.
Exactly. Which, it leads to a bigger question. How do we balance the rights of the accused with the need for public safety and a fair trial? It's a tricky one.
We're wading into the world of legal statutes, specifically the ones that cover moving detainees, between facilities in Indiana.
Right, those kind of behind-the-scenes procedures.
Exactly. And we're looking at this because, Richard Allen, high-profile murder suspect, the whole thing's gotten a lot of public attention.
Absolutely. A lot of folks are following that one closely.
And recently they moved him, right? Transferred him from the county jail to a state facility. Our listener wants to understand why that happens.
Makes sense. It can seem kind of mysterious, like why move someone before the trial even starts?
Right. And some folks online are even saying it's some kind of like pre-punishment or something.
Oh, I've seen that too, but it's really not about that at all.
Okay, good. So let's clear that up. We're looking at two main Indiana statutes here.
Right. Yep. We've got Indiana Code Section 35, 33, 11.1, and also Section 1110.1.2.
All right, those numbers, that's where you get lost. What do they actually say, like in plain English?
Okay, so that first one, the 35, 33, 11.1, it's all about safekeeping. Basically, it says if a county jail can't ensure the safety of a detainee, they can be transferred.
So it's more about protecting the person, not punishing them.
Exactly. It could be that the county jail is overcrowded or there are security concerns. Whatever the reason, it's about making sure the detainee is safe.
Makes sense. So then what about the second statute, the 11 Witchamakali?
The 1110.1.2, that one gives the Department of Correction the power to actually receive those inmates from county jails.
Ah, okay. So there's a process.
Yep. And it's usually done under a court order. Like the judge says, hey, this person needs to be in a state facility for their safety.
So it's not just a whim someone decides. There's a legal reason behind it.
Absolutely. It all comes down to what we call judicial discretion. The judge looks at the whole picture. How serious are the charges? Are there threats to the detainee? What's the security situation at the jail?
So they're kind of weighing all those things.
Right. They're thinking about the safety of everyone involved, including the detainee,
Mhm.
and they're thinking about making sure the legal process can move forward fairly.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's bring this back to Richard Allen. His case has gotten so much attention. How do these statutes apply to his situation?
Well, imagine you're the judge in this case. You've got an incredibly high-profile suspect. The whole community is talking about it. There's intense media coverage, emotions running high.
Wow. Yeah, I can only imagine the pressure.
Right. So the judge has to consider, can Allen actually be safe in a county jail? Could there be threats from other inmates? Or what if the attention on him puts the jail's security at risk?
Huh. I hadn't thought about it from that angle.
And on top of that, there's the issue of a fair trial. If Allen's in a county jail, surrounded by all this publicity, could it affect potential jurors?
Oh, right. They might already have an opinion about him before even hearing the evidence.
Exactly. A state facility with its tighter security and less public exposure can help ensure a fair trial.
So just to be super clear for our listeners, transferring someone like Richard Allen isn't some kind of punishment.
Not at all. It's about recognizing that high-profile cases come with unique challenges. And we have these legal tools, these statutes, to make sure the system works the way it's supposed to.
Protect everyone, ensure a fair trial, the whole thing.
Precisely. It's about being proactive, not punitive.
Wow, this has been really eye-opening. So to sum it up, these Indiana statutes are all about safety, security, and fairness in our legal system. They give judges the power to say, hey, this situation needs a transfer.
Well said. And I think it raises a really important question. We all want to ensure safety and security, but we also have to uphold the presumption of innocence. It's this constant balancing act.
Right, that's a cornerstone of our system.
Absolutely. So, how do we make sure these transfers are only used when they absolutely have to be? How do we make sure they're never misused?
I know the answer to that. Defense lawyers.